I really like talking about some of these matters of Islam, like whether it's the concept of niyyah or the taqwa mentality that we discussed. I really like talking about these things because sometimes we just get the rinse, recycle, repeated version of the same stuff again and again and again, to the point where our hearts become hardened to the depth that actually comes with something like taqwa, or the depth that actually comes with something like sincerity and what it means to be sincere. And, we hear taqwa, taqwa, taqwa all the time, and you guys are going to get your fair share of it with your 25 webinars that your community is hosting this week. You're going to hear some taqwa along the way, along with some donations online. The same with sincerity. You hear all the time, do it fi sabilillah, do this for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Everything must be for the sake of Allah. But as we discussed last time, there's a lot more depth to these things. Even like there's a criteria to what counts as intention. You can't just say I'm doing this based on my intention. There's a lot of criteria and prerequisites and conditions to even intend in the first place. So then when it comes to this concept of love for the sake of Allah, I love you for the sake of Allah, we have to love each other for the sake of Allah. Rinse, recycle, repeat, rinse, recycle, repeat. But what does it actually mean to love for Allah? And then more than loving something for the sake of Allah, what does it actually mean to love Allah? There's a lot of Islamic academia, and unfortunately, due to the tide of the times that we live in, we only get to see like maybe 3% max. If somebody's maxing out, they might go like 5-7%, like Mob 100 type stuff. You might only get, one of the 9 tails coming out. You don't get to see someone really like max out all the way. So inshallah, with Allah's aid and support, we're going to see the depths of this, inshallah. So now that we've gotten our review out of the way, and no, you don't take notes and you don't sit in these lectures just to come back and get a recording and watch it when you're on a road trip or something. The whole reason why we do this is so that we know it. The only way you can know it is if you review it. So make review a part of your routine when it comes to what you know. I was actually talking with some brothers earlier today. I was sharing with them how happy I am to have my notebooks, because we don't have to look up a bunch of things if it's in our notes. And sometimes it's even more enjoyable to review the notes than it is to review like a book. So make sure that you take time throughout your schedule to just like review your notes, make it a part of your skin, make it a part of your thought process, like literally incarnate it into the very fabric of your being. Without any further ado, let's talk about love for Allah, Jalla Jalal. First thing we got to do whenever we start talking about love for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is we have to look at Nabi Musa alayhi salam. Nabi Musa alayhi salam is literally an example of what it means to love Allah, like in terms of your amal, in terms of your action, and what it means to know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves you in terms of what Allah facilitates to you, what Allah does for you. Everything from the example of when he was a kid to being raised in the house of his greatest enemy, to the miracles that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had given him, to the tawfiq in making hijrah. There's a reason why Musa alayhi salam is mentioned over 130 times in 35 different chapters of Quran, because he was a model for not just for the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam to see a Nabi who went through a lot, similar to what the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam would go through in his time with Risala, with Nubuwwah, as a messenger of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and being a prophet, but also because there's a lot of similitudes that we can take from his life and assimilate into our own from the seerah of Musa alayhi salam. So without going too deep into his life story, let's just talk about this one part from Surah Taha, chapter 20, verse 83, verse 84. We know that Musa alayhi salam, he had rushed from his people, so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had asked him, what makes you rush and hasten away from your from your people to me, O Musa? You see, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had set up an appointment between him and Musa alayhi salam. And that appointment was so that Musa could actually receive the Torah. The Torah for Bani Israel is said to have the knowledge of all things in it. This is why, like, you may be familiar with the Israelia of Musa, like conversing with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that I see in the Torah that there's a group of people who you will forgive their sins whenever they take a bite of food and they say alhamdulillah. If they eat with bismillah and they whenever they've eaten it they say alhamdulillah, that Allah will forgive them, because in the Torah of Musa alayhi salam, Allah had given him knowledge of all things. Part of a much larger discussion, but he hastened to meet with Allah on the mountain. And whenever he went there, he didn't just go by himself. When he went to the mountain, he had all of Bani Israel, all of the tribes of Israel at the summit of the mountain. He left his brother Harun, Nabi Harun alayhi salam, in charge of them, and then he makes his way up the mountain to meet with Allah Jalla Jalal. So Allah asked him, why is it that you have rushed to come to me? Why is it that you rushed to come to me? And he says something that's very, very interesting. Wa'ajiltu is like to run. It's like to hasten to something. It's to rush to something. He's saying that I race to you. I run into you because I'm seeking your pleasure. Now we see this ayah in the Quran, chapter 20, verse 84. I'm rushing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's pleasure. We get that. That's cool. But do we really know like what he was rushing to? First of all, this was not a moment. Whenever Musa alayhi salam had made it to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for this special meeting at the top of this mountain where he would receive the Torah, he wasn't just there for a day. Like, Bani Israel had enough time to melt down gold, cool it off, forge it, and sculpt it into a gold calf, and then worship it before Musa alayhi salam came back. This is the same part of the Quran. This is from the same story. This is actually the part before the story. So he was up there for over a month. Initially, whenever he was going to meet with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this moment, he was only supposed to be there for a month, only a month, only at the top of a mountain. Meeting with Allah to receive revelation, you're only supposed to be there for a month. You're only there for a month, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala added 10 days. What was he doing for the 40 days? Does anyone know? In the Bible, even though, we're not taking this as sahih, we don't want anybody to clip this and be like, the brother is teaching the Bible in the Ramadan class. Right? We don't want to get clipped, all right? But in the Bible, in the book of Exodus, it actually says he was in prostration for 40 days and 40 nights. That's what it says in the Bible. Obviously, what we have by way of tafsir is a little bit cleaner in its sanad, in its chain of narrators. So actually what he was doing was he was fasting in the morning, and he was fasting all day, and he was fasting all night, alayhi salam. First for 30 days, then he added another 10. Why is that significant? What does that have to do with Ramadan Reloaded? Fasting was prescribed for you as it was prescribed for those who came before you so that you can attain taqwa. So before even Musa could receive the Torah, he was fasting. Why do we fast? Well, what did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tell us in Surah Al-Baqarah chapter 2 verse 183? The reason that you fast today is the same reason that the people of old like Musa alayhi salam did it before. It's so that you can attain taqwa. So he could not even take the Torah until he had fasted and attained that taqwa to grab it. It was supposed to at first be for 30 days. It ended up continuing into the 10. For 10 more, he fasted for day and night for 40 days. If you take into consideration what the Bible even said about it, in prostration, fasting day and night for 40 days. Was Musa like, I gotta fast for 30 days. Now they're adding 10 more. Look at his analogy and look at us. I don't want to fast. Fasting sucks. I'm gonna just be sleeping. I'm really tired. I got exams. Musa knew whenever he was going to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he wasn't just going there to kick it and chill and to sleep all day and to stay up all night playing card games and eating, turning the time of fasting to the time of feasting. He knew that that's not what he was going there for. He was going there for something serious, because a meeting with Allah is a serious thing. It's a serious thing. But did he say, I'm just going, like, oh, let me get on up this mountain, let me take my time? He rushed to Allah. He rushed to Allah seeking his pleasure. Why? Because he loved Allah. Rushed his way up a mountain, rushed his way to fasting for 30 days plus 10, in prostration for the duration of all of it. Why? For no other reason than love for Allah Jalla Jalal. Now remember what we said about the Torah. The Prophet ﷺ informed us, hadith and sunan, that the analogy between the Torah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had revealed the Torah, and Allah had given me a sab'at tiwal, the 7 longest chapters of the Quran. And so in the Quran, the 7 longest chapters of Quran, Surah Al-Baqarah, Ali Imran, Surah An-Nisa, Surah Al-Ma'idah, Surah Al-An'am, A'raf, and then you can either take Anfal and Tawbah and make it as one, or you can bring Surah to Yunus. The scholars had difference of opinion if it's Anfal and Tawbah 8 and 9 together to make up the 7th one, or if it's the 10th chapter to make up the 7th one. Allahu A'lam, it's the 10th one. Thus, the Prophet ﷺ said, now Musa had gotten this, the Torah, and in it knowledge of all things, and in it was guidance for Bani Israel. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes reference to the Torah throughout the Quran. If that's what he did for 40 days in prostration and fasting just to get the Torah, the Prophet ﷺ said, just in the 7 chapters, the first 7 longest chapters of the Quran, we have something equivalent in the Torah that Allah had preserved for our ummah. And whenever we start the month of Ramadan, normally when we pray in Jama'ah, what is the first surah that we hear? If we start with the first 7, the 7 longest chapters of Quran, even if you have a difference of opinion between 8 and 9, being the 7th or the 10th, in the first 10 nights, you normally get through the first, 13, 14 nights of Ramadan, you're normally going through these chapters of Quran, and we're fasting while we're doing it. You see how Allah, out of his love for this ummah, had given us in less time, in fewer chapters, like the equivalent to what Allah had even blessed Nabi Musa and Bani Israel with by way of the Torah. So look at the similitude between as-sab'a tiwal and at-Torah, and look at how we rush to Allah's pleasure when it comes to fasting. Look at how we rush to Allah's pleasure when it comes to prostration. Look at how we approach acts of worship from our end, and then compare that to him, alayhi salam. And we do it together as an ummah. You know, there may be difference of opinion on whether it's calculations or looking for the moon. There may be difference of opinion on when you end the fast based on your or our message does this, but everyone else is doing that. We may have difference of opinion on those things, but none of us disagree about fasting in Ramadan. The most united time of the year for our ummah is when we come together for Ramadan. And look at how many shortcuts we look for when it comes to fasting. We try to shortcut the fasting by sleeping all day. We try to shortcut the fasting by staying up all night. We look for all of these things outside of the realm of what is the benefit of it, of hastening to Allah's pleasure. And just from the example of Musa alayhi salam, from his prostration, his fasting, and receiving the revelation, we know that the month of Ramadan is the time for us to actually connect with the book that Allah loved us enough to reveal to the ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Allah loved us enough to make us a part of the ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Sometimes we think that it's our culture, our parents, our names that make us Muslim. No, Allah chose you from the children of Adam in the year 2020, out of all of the people on the face of the planet. Allah picked you right now to be hearing about this because he loved you enough to be within earshot, to have on your laptop, your computer, or your phone, access to just know this much about the deen. And as you all know, many of you have known me for some time, I just turned 7, alhamdulillah. I'm still celebrating my 7th Shahada birthday. Allah loved me enough to allow for me to even become Muslim 7 years ago, and I thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for it every day. And it's only from his love for us that we will even be able to make it to the end of our lives with this deen. We ask Allah to grant us that tawfiq. But you know, the example of Musa alayhi salam hastening to Allah's pleasure, even though he knew what he had to do was not going to be something light, he was hastening to it, not because it felt good, not because it was easy, but because he knew by rushing to it that Allah would be pleased with him. And that was enough for him to do it, seeking Allah's love, love for Allah's love. We don't just see it in the example of Musa alayhi salam and the similitude between what Allah had given him in the Torah and what Allah had given us in the Sab'a Tiwal, but we also see it in the example of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. From the hadith of Al-Mughira ibn Shu'bah. It's found, the hadith is actually found in Bukhari and it's found in Muslim, where Aisha radiallahu anha had observed his swollen feet alayhi salam. Why are you standing all night with your feet swollen? And you know, we talked about the imams, you know, last time we were together, secrets between them and Allah. The imam who's, you know, playing tricks on his wife, he's going to bed pretending to sleep, and then he's getting up and he's praying all night. It's like, why are you torturing yourself? He said, I'm going to sleep in Jannah. Don't worry about me sleeping now. I'm going to sleep in Jannah. When Aisha radiallahu anha had observed the Prophet ﷺ with his swollen, cracked feet, she asked him, you doing all of this and Allah had already forgiven all of your sins? You're already guaranteed Jannah. Allah had forgiven all of your sins. Why are you doing this? Shouldn't I be a grateful slave to Allah? Why would you be grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the first place? Not just because Allah had forgiven all of his sins, not just because Allah had, given him the guarantee of going to Jannah, but because of everything that Allah does for us. Everything that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does for us is enough for us to love him. But that love becomes subjective really, really quickly. Because now we have to ask ourselves, what is the how-ness? How do you really actually know you love Allah? How do you actually attain love for Allah? You can tell the effects of true love by looking at its results. We have a few different types of we have a few different types of love in Islam. We have like in the Arabic language, for example, and this actually shares its you know, it actually, the word is shared between this, and it's also shared in Urdu, ishq, minus the ayn in Urdu, right? Ishq. It's like infatuation. It's whenever you have a passionate love for something. But the problem with this type of infatuation and passionate love is just as quickly as it flares up, it flares down. It's like a flash in a pan. 1 minute you're all the way in it, 1 minute you're all the way out of it. And sometimes we as an ummah today, we become so addicted to these iman highs from these YouTube videos and these popular shuyukh, and oh, is it Sheikh so-and-so, or oh, I love Ustadha or Sheikha so-and-so. Whenever she speaks, it really softens my heart. We become so, we attain a passionate love for knowledge. We attain a passionate love for practicing the deen, but we flare up with our love for knowledge, and we flare up with our love for the deen, and we're praying extra, and we're fasting extra, and we're learning extra. And because it's not rooted in true love for Allah and true love for knowledge, the same way it comes, the same way it goes. But a testament to true love is that it stands the test of time. It's not here when it's convenient and gone when it's not. Okay, in the summer, I got super religious, and now the school is back, and you know, I'm trying to get into college. I got to keep my GPA up. I'm trying to get into medical school. I'm trying to get this job. Now that I'm out of school and now that I'm working, my love for Allah and all of the things that I did to show it is just going down. No, rather, a testament to true love is that it has longevity. And this is the difference between, well, one of several differences between ishq and wad. Wad is normally used to describe uncompromising, unending, permanent love, meaning a love that never ever changes. And in Surah Al-Rum, chapter 30, verse number 21, the way that Allah described the love that should exist between a man and a wife is with the same root letters as what? The mawadda that exists between a man and a wife is like an unconditional type of love. It's not dependent on when it's convenient. It's not dependent on when I like it and when I don't. And this is the same root letters that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala used to describe himself with, al-wadud, meaning his love for you is unending and it's ever going. Like Allah doesn't ever stop loving you, even when you do things to show that you don't truly love him. And whenever you really have that love for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it's something that is consistent. It's not here one day and then it's gone the next. And then of course we have hub. Hub is something that exists between people. Hub is something that can exist for other things. Like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala described in, what is it? Adiyat, that for khair, right? That there's like a deep love for it. That's like, that borders on like extremism. For khair, for wealth, for status, for things in this dunya. That hope that we have for the khair in this dunya is like the goodness of this world is sometimes shadeed. So hub can sometimes be positive and hub can sometimes be negative, but hub is almost always conditional. I love you because of this and I don't love you because of that. I love these things for these reasons. I don't love these things for that reason. And Allah did not just, you know, make love for him or make, you know, love for Islam, did not make it some arbitrary thing. Well, my expression of love for Islam is a lot different than yours. How can you tell me what love of Allah looks like? It's not some subjective thing that we get to all just make up. Allah described the impact and the effect of what having love for him and love for this deen and love for the Prophet ﷺ, he described what it looked like in the Quran. To give you an example, the well-known verse from Surah Al-Ra'd, chapter 13, verse number 28. For those who have believed and whose hearts are assured by the remembrance of Allah, unquestionably the remembrance of Allah causes the hearts to be assured. That peace and tranquility that you have in your heart from remembering Allah, why would you remember Allah if you don't love him? And we're going to actually share a quote later on by, you know, some of the Salaf al-Salih and some of the Khalaf al-Salih, some of the righteous scholars of old, about the more you love Allah, the more you think about him. You see, when you love Allah, you remember Allah in different situations. We're going to talk about the practical ways of how you remember Allah often. But whenever you love Allah and you think about Allah, your heart, it feels at peace. And that peace that you get from remembering Allah out of love for him, that it just reinforces your desire to remember him more. Kind of like when you think about that food that you really, really like, it makes you feel good, especially when you get it. And then when you get it, you feel even better. So then you think about it when you don't have it so that you can have it again. or that show that you really like that just came out on Netflix and you binge it, you can't wait till the next season and you're thinking about it until you forget about it, until you get the notification that it's back, and then you're thinking about it again. See, when you have love for some things in this dunya, you think about it. You think about it. Whenever you have love for some things in this world, you think about it. Whenever you have love for the attention of people, you think about it. Hey guys, what'd you think about this thing I did? Right? You start to think about it. But those things will never ever give your heart the level of contentment and peace and tranquility that the remembrance of Allah will give, because the love that you have for Allah that makes you think about Him is not like the love that you have for things in this dunya that makes you think about those things. And that's a distinction that we have to make clear today. Even when it comes to loving Allah, a part of loving Allah is a part of loving Kalam Allah, loving the speech of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, loving the Quran. And Allah had told us, like, whenever you truly, truly love the Quran, it has a certain impact on you. The skins, they shiver. Whenever you start to have that fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the fear of His majesty and glory, when you think about something that's just so amazing, it leads to a fear, not the unhealthy fear, like there's a boogeyman under my bed, or there's a, Freddy Krueger hiding in my closet. No, this type of fear is like a fear of just the greatness of all of it. It's kind of like Laysa kamithlihi shay. There's nothing like Allah Jalla Jalal, but there's a certain type of fear that comes with just being in the middle of the ocean by yourself. There's so much vastness, there's so much power in the storms and the waves that come. There's so much unknown beneath you, the uncertainty of all of it, but the majesty and the beauty of all of it at the same time, it causes a certain type of fear in the heart. Or if you were to just be launched into space and just drifting, the vastness of it all, and the amazing sights of the stars and comets and meteorites and all this stuff. Meteorites, is that in the asteroids in space? Just the sheer vastness and the might of black holes and quasars, neutron stars. It's enough to overwhelm you. And Allah is the creator of the oceans and everything in the universe and the stars in the sky and everything beneath your feet and above your head, which you're aware of and what you're not aware of. And He speaks to you every time you recite the Quran. How dare we lay down and be so nonchalant in our relationship with the Quran when we know that Allah is the one that revealed it. And whenever you truly love the speech of Allah Jalla Jalal, He says that He had sent down the best statement. That statement is in the Quran. In the Quran, Allah repeats certain themes so that you know that everything that's a part of it is consistent and real and from Him alone. When you really begin to understand that, your skin, it shivers. You get goosebumps on your skin when you really start to think about the majesty of Allah, that when you recite the Quran, you're reciting what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had actually spoken. Put aside your Islamic school, hifz school, my parents used to make me memorize Quran. Take that resentment and put it to the side and understand that it's still Kalam Allah. Their skins and their hearts, after the fear of the majesty and the weight of it sets in, then the hearts, they start to relax as they really remember not just Allah's might and majesty and power and the majestic nature of Rabbul Alameen, but then you remember Allah's mercy, His forgiveness, His love for you. And this is a guidance from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He guides to whomever He wills. Why would Allah guide you to it if you don't love Him? Why would Allah give you this effect when in your heart you truly don't love Him? So we can see the effects of what it means to truly love Allah. And where does love start? Even if you look at it from a secular perspective, even if you look at it from a materialistic society, even if you look at it through the lens of modernism, everyone says love is in the heart. Everyone says love is in the heart. So whenever you don't reflect upon the Quran appropriately, this ayah from Surah Muhammad in chapter 47, verse 24, this ayah in Surah Muhammad is a question, but it's making a statement. Have you not reflected upon the Quran? Have you not reflected that this is actually Kalamullah? Have you not reflected that your Lord is actually speaking to you? Have you not reflected that everything He said in it, by way of Jannah, by way of Jahannam, by way of His reward, by way of His punishment, by way of the prophets and the people that He loved before that He talked about, and by way of those who ran into His wrath head first, like the Fir'auns of the world? Have you not reflected that Allah had revealed the Quran to you? And we know Ramadan is coming up. This is the month of Quran. Have you really not reflected over what it means to recite the book of Allah, to have access to it, to have it somewhere in your house where you can point it out, you can grab it, you can open your phone and you can literally open an app and you can see the Lamb of Allah? Have you not reflected on it? Because if you have it, then that means your heart is locked up. Locked up with what? What prison have you put your heart in? What chains and locks have you put on your heart that prevents you from loving Allah enough to actually reflect on what it means to have kalam Allah and access to it? What does that mean? It means you have locked your heart up with love for things other than Allah. You've locked your heart up with things that mean nothing. Now, does this mean don't watch YouTube? Does this mean do not enjoy the things in this dunya? Absolutely not. But everything you enjoy in this dunya should take you back to reflecting over and loving the one that allowed for you to enjoy it in the first place. And sometimes we break the chain of understanding and the line of connecting that the only reason why I'm able to enjoy my smartphone, enjoy my clothing, enjoy my my room, my space, my nice things, my video games, my favorite TV series. The only reason why I'm able to enjoy those things is because Allah allowed me to in the first place. If Allah did not love me enough to give me the eyes and the ears and the faculty to enjoy it, then I never would have been able to enjoy it at all. So why do we stop at loving those things and not loving the one who gave us access to it in the first place? And an even greater testament to the lack of love for Allah is that you use the things that Allah had blessed you with to then wrong yourself and to engage in things that you know Allah is not pleased with. So Allah loved you enough to be able to have happiness, and then you seek happiness in all the things He said not to. See, this concept of loving Allah, it's really, really deep. And sometimes we reduce it to a few things. Now we're gonna continue with this part. So now that we understand, like, what should the effects of love look like? Love for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala look like? What doesn't it look like? It doesn't look like something conditional. It doesn't look like something that flashes, ooh, when I get to watch this YouTube video with the humming nasheed auto-tuned in the background, I'm all the way in it. As long as it's my favorite sheikh, as long as it's this popular person who's trending, if you make Islam in a TikTok video, then I'll enjoy it. If I see it in my Snapchat, then maybe I'll see what Mufti Mink is doing and maybe I have a good time with it. But if it's not in those capacities, see, that conditional love can never be true love for Allah Jalla Jalal. And that passionate love where 1 minute I take my deen super seriously and the next minute I take it not seriously at all. 1 minute it's in front of my face, the other minute it's behind my back. That passion that you go back and forth with when it comes to Allah, this is not what true love looks like. And this is why the hearts become locked up. This is why the hearts do not feel the peace. This is why the skins do not shiver. This is why the fear of Allah does not set in. So now what then are the roadblocks? Now we are familiar with the ayah, Surah Tatfif or Mutaffifin, chapter 83, verse 14, that whenever you get that wrong, you get that blackness of sin that covers your heart, then how can the heart, because keep in mind, the source of love is within the heart. If the heart is so heavily laden and literally dunked into the darkness of sin, of everything other than the remembrance of Allah, if that becomes your 9 to 5, even and just think about this, because sometimes we think that just because a person, if a person is religious, oh, they're in the masjid and mashallah, they teach Quran, they're Islamic studies, and they work in a Sunday school and and mashallah, she wears a full hijab, she wears niqab, he has a big beard, he wears a thobe, he have on a kufi. Brother Isa is growing his kufi. We think sometimes because of the symbols of religiosity and because of proximity to religiosity, we think sometimes because of those things that makes a person's heart, full of iman and full of love for Allah. But that's not true. If you look at the end of the verse in Surah Al-Kahf, chapter 18, verse 28, where Allah gives you the criteria of 3 things you need to look for in a friend and 3 things that you need to make sure that you never find in a friend. One of the things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had said about that is do not make your company, do not find yourself with or around people whose hearts He had made heedless. Because sometimes people can recite Quran. You may be hafiz of Quran and you lead tarawih, but in your heart, you are not remembering Allah. In fact, you're heedless there. You may, work in an Islamic environment. You may be around Muslims all the time. You may have the appearance of religiosity, but Allah said that's not actually what makes a person's heart full of iman. The verse in Surah Al-Kahf, chapter 18, at the end of verse 28. Rather, what you should avoid is sometimes you will see a person make a ton of dhikr. You will see a person talk about Islam a lot, but in their heart, they're completely heedless of the deen. And Allah says, don't put yourself around people whose hearts He had made heedless. He had made heedless of His remembrance, Jalla Jalal. So sometimes whenever, even though we find ourselves reciting Quran, we find ourselves around religious people, or sometimes we find ourselves listening to the kalam of men, we listening to this singer on repeat. Oh, I love that song. I love this YouTuber. I love this, Instagram influencer. I love their makeup. I love their fashion. I love this and that and the third about them. Our hearts become so soaked with everything secular and materialistic. And keep in mind, this isn't a fatwa. This is a call to taqwa. Your heart becomes so immersed in that Quran that now you can't even think about loving Allah because you love too many other things. And in the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, it's actually multiple hadith. The Prophet ﷺ said, whenever you do a sin, you get a black dot. Nuqtatun soda. It's just a black dot. It starts as one black dot. But the more you sin, the more you get those black dots all over your heart. The more you get them all over your heart, and that covering of the heart, that becomes the Quran. So whenever you become so heedless of Allah that you begin to validate why you love other things more than you love Allah, then how can you begin to find a way out of it? These are things that become roadblocks for us. Yeah, I believe in Islam, but in my opinion, if Islam was based on your opinion, then how can any of us get to Jannah? Because my opinion, a human being's opinion, will never be as just as the adl of Ar-Rahman Ahkam al-Hakimin, the most merciful, the most wise of those who have wisdom. Well, I feel, subhanAllah, if it was based on your feelings, then why wasn't Quran revealed to you or me? If it was based on how I feel, why wasn't I the seal of all prophets? It's because it's not about our feelings. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us in Surah An-Najm, even the Prophet ﷺ doesn't even speak from his desires. So what happens when we begin to speak about Allah, speak about Islam, speak about what it looks like from our desires? No, rather you love you more than you love what Allah had ordained for you. And that puts that Quran on the heart, and it blocks the path to being able to truly love Allah, because we are not Muslim just so that we can say haram, haram, haram. We do not become Muslim just so that we can find oh, well, I can't do that. I can't eat pork and I can't drink alcohol. Yeah, we're Muslim and we don't do those things, but that's not all of Islam. The thing that makes Islam beautiful, the thing that made me leave everything that I knew as a kafir, as a non-Muslim, as a disbeliever, unbeliever, whatever terminology or phrase you're comfortable with, the thing that made me become Muslim is because whenever you have Islam, it just opens up life. It opens up everything. It's not putting you in a cage. It's freeing you of so much. Looking at life through Tawheed-colored glasses is not like looking through life through the lenses of your desires, through the lenses of your opinion, through the lenses of what someone else is saying, through someone else's song, someone else's movie, someone else's fantasy. Because when you think about Jannah, it's better than any book that Harry Potter's author or the Rings author, or even those people who watch that stupid show with the dragons and that girl. Allah forgive you. It's better than all of that. Anything in Jannah will be better than any fantasy that you can have in this dunya. And when you think about the things that suck in this life, what you see in the hereafter is in Jahannam is much worse than even the worst thing that you could ever imagine here. So why would we prefer that over what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had said? Every time you make that choice, the preference of this is what I want, this is what I think, this is how I feel, run. It just covers your heart in Iran. And this is a testament not just to a lack of respect for Islamic scholarship, but what's even worse than that is when you set up co-equals to what Allah has said has no peer. Allah's rules in the Quran are peerless. You cannot compare the rulings of a human being to the rulings of Allah. You can't compare the two. Allah does not have a peer. لم يلد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. كفوا أحد. كفوا أحد. Allah does not have a kufa. Allah does not have a peer. Allah does not have anything equal to him. So how can you make the opinion of something that you read in a book equal to what Allah has revealed in his book? It's not the same. How can you compare, some self-help video that you found on the internet to the self-help that Allah had ordained through the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam? For the ayah in Surah Al-Baqarah, chapter 2, verse 165, we set up andada. We make co-equals to Allah. We have modern-day idols. Amongst those modern-day idols, where did I throw this little bugger right here? Modern-day idols. Modern-day idols that we worship. We fall asleep with these things in front of our face. When it dies, when our phone is dying, we treat it like does anyone have a charger? My phone is dying. Your heart becomes soft for these things. When a person loses their phone, they have a mild panic attack. There was an entire psychological study done on how cell phones inspire separation anxiety. Like separation anxiety, like a mother losing their child in a store. Is anyone see my phone? Freaking out. Because these things have become things that we love in our heart the way that we should love Allah. In fact, the ayah says that the people, those who believe, their love for Allah is more shadeed, it's more firm and strict and firm for Allah than it is for anything else. And we're going to talk about why that love for Allah is, honestly, it's the best thing ever. It's literally the best thing ever. Another group of andada that we had set up with Allah is people. You care too much what people think about you. You care too much what people say about you. You care too much about people in general. Now, does that mean act like I was going to say jerk, but maybe that's best PG. Just because you don't care what people think about you doesn't mean that you become rude. That's not what that means. Oh, I don't care what no one thinks. That's not a thing. When we say care what people think, it's where you value people's opinion over you more than you think about what if Allah is rewarding you or punishing you for the things that you do for the people. When you care more about what a person says and you find excuses to compromise the sunnah, that means that you have made the sunnah of the people greater than the sunnah of the person sent as a rahmah, a mercy to all people. That's dangerous. That's scary. In our pursuit of the dunya, we've made equal to our pursuit of the akhirah. You can never ever compare infinity to something that is finite. Something that is unending will never ever be like something that ends. And we know the dunya will end. We know this. Death in 2020 is more of a sure reality for people in my generation. I was born in 1990s, without, I'm not that old, but I was born in 1990s. It's a sure reality for us today. When at first we thought coronavirus only takes out old people. And then we saw very clearly that healthy young people, even active people, athletes, were dying from the coronavirus. It's so real that you would stay in your house and go outside with your face covered like a niqabi, or with gloves on your face or on your hands like you're doing a lab experiment, and scared to go to the grocery store because you don't want to see death. You don't want to die. No one wants to die. May Allah give us long lives of good health and hasanat, ameen, and wealth too, ameen. But anyway, saying all that to say, we make our pursuit of the dunya, the way that you grind for school, the way that you grind for your job, the way that you grind for your clout on Instagram, the way that you will sit there literally meticulously finding the perfect angle of your face. Hey, can you hold my phone and take a picture of me? Look at how you grind for your dunya, for your social media, for your clout, for your popularity. Look at how you grind for that, and look at how you grind for salat. People become savages, for clout and for fame in this dunya, and they fear death, and they do anything to save themselves from it, even though death is something that's very, very palpable in our age. One of the biggest wake-up calls I know for people in my generation is when Kobe Bryant died. People were like, yo, what? Kobe? I mean, of course, it became a meme within 8 hours or 24 hours, depending on which Kobe fan you are. But, people, they were really shocked and shook by his death. Like, how can someone like Kobe die? It scared people. But that fear of death makes us even more firm on our love for the dunya, as opposed to making us even more firm on our love for seeking Allah's pleasure in the akhirah. And the last thing I'll mention as roadblocks to loving Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala before we get into our action items, because I got to climb up Everest before I get to the top and start to drop what it is we try to say, is the what I refer to as the modernist flu. Now we have influenza, we have coronavirus, novel coronavirus, we have all types of things in the world today. But one of the things that we don't talk about, and I can't remember the sheikh's name, but someone shared a video in a chat where a sheikh was talking about one of the modern diseases that we don't talk about enough is fatigue. How many people are just tired all the time? I'm taking it and coining it in a different way. The sheikh was talking with some scientific stuff. I'm just, speaking for me right now. But the modernist flu is we spend so much time on social media. We spend so much time on YouTube. We spend so much time eating. We spend so much time fattening ourselves up. We spend so much time fueling our desires, laying around and just doing whatever Yeah, Sheikh Shadi Al-Masri. He has like a lecture on like on like fatigue and how it's like a modern pandemic, the pandemic that isn't being discussed, modern fatigue. But we spend so much time with all this blue light in our face, swiping and reading and exerting ourselves in video games and for Snapchat streaks and TikTok challenges that we become too tired to pursue Allah's pleasure. We become too tired to pursue Allah's pleasure. Our love for those things in the modern age have made us think that seeking Allah's pleasure is an archaic concept, that it doesn't fit this time. Or, well, it's a different era. Okay, what era would it be okay to sit with this thing in front of your face for 6 hours, doing nothing? What era is it okay for you to sleep all day? Can you, is this like a futuristic thing? Is this a futuristic mentality? From the paradox of progress, as technology gets more advanced, people become less advanced mentally, emotionally. They deal with more mental problems today as technology becomes more advanced than people did before, whenever it was a simpler time. That now we can barely go up and down a flight of stairs. We spend so much time sitting in front of these laptops. The only reason why I'm mad these classes are an hour and a half plus is because we have to sit in front of this screen this whole time. And it makes us tired. We just become super fatigued. The modernist flu. We're so busy doing nothing that we're tired to do something, too tired to do something. I thought prophets had to pray tahajjud. The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, it was binding upon him to pray tahajjud, but that's not the reason. Even if let me give you an example to the person who had asked this. The reason why, or let me just give you this concept. Because prophets have to obey Allah, right? That's this own thing in Aqidah and, them doing what Allah commanded them to and so on and so forth as part of being the ones who carry the message from Allah. That's one thing. But just because you have to pray Fajr, does it mean that you will? I mean, Allah had blessed human beings with the powerful gift of choice, of free will. Within the limits of what Allah chooses and what Allah wills, we are able to choose. So the Prophet ﷺ didn't say, I'm standing up praying all night and my feet are getting swollen and my feet are cracking because I have to pray tahajjud. That's us. Well, you have to get up for Fajr. He said, I'm doing it because I'm a grateful slave. I'm a grateful slave I'm grateful to be Allah's slave. Imagine if we got up for Fajr saying, I'm grateful to be able to wake up and pray to my Lord before the sun even rises. So that's a difference in mentality. Where does ishq come from? Is it from shaitan? Is it from our nafs? Ishq is a combination of shahawat, of your desires, and a combination of shaitan. People, and we've talked about this before, and honestly, once Ramadan comes in, we need to have a whole lecture on shaitan. We might need to make that happen, all right? Because when shaitan is chained up, then we can talk about him and no one is going to stop us, not even him, all right? But shaitan, sometimes we don't think, shaitan will actually be like, yes, go to the Al-Maghrib seminar, webinars, yes, go to it, yes, learn the deen. And he will be like, load up, do more. You're so religious now, you need to pray more sunnah. Why? Well, you don't know fiqh, you don't know aqidah, you need to do more, Shaitan will be happy to load you up on khair just so that you burn out and stop. Shaitan is so tricky when it comes to even inspiring passions for love of the deen. The shaitan will like be like, yeah, do more. We'll wear the niqab and wear all black and go as far as you can. Throw your beard to your belly button. Put on all white thobe, but make sure you wrap your head twice with turban and a kufi on your turban. Brother, why are you wearing shoes? You need to wear leather socks. Shaitan will be like, yes, go further, faster. So that when you burn out, he can be like, yes, I got you to go so hard that you gave up. And this is actually what Ibn al-Qayyim had said about shaitan, and it's really a really powerful quote. Shaitan will see you go through 99 doors of good to see you go through one door of bad. As long as the last door you go through is the worst one, he will see you do it. And the perfect example of that is our father Adam alayhi salam. Hey, eat from that tree, you'll be able to live forever. You get to worship Allah forever. He wasn't like, eat from the tree, go to the dunya. Your children may go to Jannah or Jahannam. He was like, hey, if you eat from that tree, then you'll get to live forever, bro. And you love Allah, you get to live forever and love Allah. This is awesome. They thought it's that tricky. But look at what Ibn al-Qayyim said after that. but Allah will see you go through 99 doors of bad just to bring you through one door of good. But that's when Shaitan is chained, he gets that yoke on his neck. Because I feel him somewhere, someone behind the computer. I didn't say that. You know, Shaitan is on our neck sometimes. So, anyways, answer your question. Ishq, it comes from shahawat, it comes from your desires, and it comes from your nafs, and it comes from Shaitan. It's like an amalgamation of evil. Right? What is the meaning of andada? Andada is equals. So, for example, like shirk means to associate partners with Allah, right? Like if you gobble turkey, that means you've made things equal with Allah. But andada is when you make something equal. Right? It's when two things are made the same. And in the context of this ayah from Surah Al-Baqarah, chapter 2, verse 165, Allah is saying that it's not shirk. It's a type of shirk, but He doesn't use the word shirk. Allah uses the word, like describes it as you set up andada, you make equals with Allah, not with your worship, but with what you love. And that's what makes this ayah like hit really, really deep. Okay. Any tips to try to reduce time wasting with regards to technology and unplug, especially from during Ramadan? You know, our Mufti here in DFW, may Allah bless our Mufti. I would say his name, but you know, sometimes saying good things about a person could be backbiting. So we just make dua for him, and we ask Allah to bless him and to increase him in everything good and make him better than I think of him, forgive him what I don't know about him, and to not take him into account for what I say about him. Ameen. So our Mufti last night, he had, what is it? I don't even know what day of the week it is. It's been one of the, our Mufti has said, like, yo, you fast from, like, delete all your accounts. Like, I'm listening to it. I'm like, yeah, I don't even have social media. I'm like, yeah, delete it, because he had me hyped. When it comes to reducing the time, like, try to take systematic steps. And he kind of mentioned it this way. He was like, delete it. If you can't delete it, then you know, like, get rid of some of the apps. If you can't get rid of some of the apps, then control the amount of time that you spend on it. Like, do something, but don't not do anything. Sometimes we take this fatalistic approach when it comes to managing our time. I'm either going to do all of it at once, or I'm not going to do anything at all. So don't take a fatalistic approach. Take it from a fatalist. Don't be a fatalist when it comes to how you approach your time management. But I do encourage all of you to completely unplug when it comes to Ramadan. Stuff that you wouldn't normally do, don't do now. Like, or like stuff that you would normally do outside of Ramadan, make this a special time that you don't do those things in Ramadan. Sometimes it's not just a matter of what we want to do, right? Sometimes, like, a person be like, I'm going to read a Jews every day. You can't read, like, you don't find a way to it, and you feel disappointed. Sometimes it's not just a matter of doing more. Sometimes it's a matter of just making sure that you do less. Sometimes it's not a matter of doing more good things, depending on, like, your spiritual stamina and your spiritual physicality and, like, your spiritual gains. Sometimes it's really hard for us to do more. We have to build ourselves up to the deadlifting, you know, some heavy weights and bench pressing and maxing out and getting into our CrossFit when it comes to spirituality, for some of us. But for other of us, you know, sometimes it's just like, all right, well, I'm not going to spend 4 hours on Twitter. I'm not going to, like, spend 6 hours playing this video game. I'm not gonna. So, yeah. Let's get to knowing why. Why? Look, this is probably one of the questions I get the most from the youth with the F, is why? Why do I have to pray? Why do I have to fast? Why do I just don't understand why? Look, even if you knew why, would that really inspire you to do it? Maybe, maybe not. But I'm going to tell you why you need to love Allah, and why it's a good thing to love Allah. Because before we talk about what it looks like to love Allah, before we talk about the signs, before we talk about how, we need to talk about why. Why? Why is it important for you to love Allah? Well, first of all, it's human nature that you love people who do the most for you. Now, some people, no matter how much you do for them, they're not going to love you back because of that ishq and because of that hub. But it is human nature that the more a person does for you, the more you love them. And as a part of human nature, look at the hikmah of Ahkam al-Hakimeen, al-Hakim al-Hakim, and how in the ayats, remember the verse that we shared before from Surah Al-Zumar, chapter 39, verse 23, where Allah mentions that there's repetition in His book. Again and again and again and again, Allah tells us how much He's done for us. all of the blessings that Allah has given us. The fact that we have the Quran is a blessing in and of itself. Every time you see something in the Quran telling you about things Allah had given you, it's like a perpetual, ongoing, unending Ouroboros of just love that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has for you, which is wild when you think about it. And knowing how much Allah does for us should be enough for us to love Him. But we look at people who do significantly less for us and we love them more. I'm gonna give you an example. Some people, they love like certain music artists. I'm not gonna say who, but some people love, like, I'm not gonna mention any artists, but some people love J. Cole or J. Cole, he's old. Whoever you listening to today, the baby or, you know, some, you know, girl singing and screaming with some auto-tune in the background on what's it called? Some girls sing on the radio. Oh, I love that song. They ain't done nothing for you. They've never even said your name. They have never said your name and you love them. And Allah loved you enough to give you parents to give you a name. They will never ever go out of their way to even talk to you. And every time you pray, Allah talks to you. In fact, whenever you pray, Allah is giving you access to Him so that you can speak to Him. What are these people doing so that you have access to them? Instagram Live, I can send a message. So, why do you love these people? They've done nothing for you. I love the Kardashians. I love this person on TikTok. I love these YouTubers. They done nothing for you ever, and Allah has done everything for you forever. But you see how those andada get set up, how those co-equals get set up with people who do nothing. So you love someone because of how much they do for you. Oh, well, you know, when I listen to this song or I watch their YouTube videos or whatever, when I see them, it makes my heart. And Allah gave you eyes to see, gave you a mind to comprehend. Allah gave you your parents or you the money to have the thing that you can watch these people on, and you love them more than you love Allah. So by Allah, Allah is not like a human being that Allah is constantly telling you, look at all the stuff I do for you, and you do nothing for me in return. I'm not going to comment on it. But even though Allah had given you so much, like, subhanAllah, come on. Allah is even literally speaking to human nature by telling you how much He's done for you. Now, this is actually what's mentioned in Tazkiyat an-Nafs under the chapter of love for Allah. Just look at the combination of these words. And this is English translation. Like, love for Allah is the ultimate aim of all stations and the summit of all states. They don't need to say anything else. It's just one sentence from one book on one chapter about loving Allah. They said, love for Allah is the ultimate aim of all stations. Tazkiyat an-Nafs. Love for Allah is the ultimate aim of all stations, and the summit of all states. Do you need another reason to love Allah? I remember when Goku went Ultra Instinct and brothers, oh, Goku went Ultra Instincts. Who cares about Ultra Instinct? The ultimate aim of all stations, the summit of all states is not Ultra Instinct, it's Super Saiyan or nothing like that. The ultimate aim of all states is not the avatar state or any other state. It's not a state of emergency or a state of peace. It's the state of loving Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The summit of all states. Like, oh my God. It's like saying, you literally have not even arrived to the best you until you've begun to love Allah. Like you literally have not arrived anywhere until you began to love Allah. That is the ultimate aim. The only reason why you hope to become a doctor, the only reason why you hope to be successful in life, the only reason why you do it is for love of Allah. If you're doing it and you're missing love of Allah, you've missed it. You haven't even arrived yet. So you have the money, you have the job, you have the degree, you have the success, you have the people following you. You've done nothing. You have not arrived until you have actually begun to love Allah. Like, I don't even need to just scroll through the rest of this. Like, who cares about all this other stuff that I have in this thing? Look at this little heart over here. Like, who cares about this heart? Who cares about any of this stuff? Like, it's crazy, man. Oh my God. Okay, you care? Okay, if you care, then bismillah. Who wrote Tazkiyat an-Nafs? Tazkiyat an-Nafs is a compilation. Tazkiyat an-Nafs is a compilation of quotes by Abu Hamid al-Ghazali, Ibn al-Qayyim, and Ibn Rajab al-Hanbali. It's like the trifecta when it comes to heart softening. Maybe we have a class where we go through that book, because man, Why is love for Allah the aim of all stations and the summit of all states? Why? It's because the ultimate key to unshackling your mind from this dunya and all of the things in this world, the ultimate freeness. I can't even talk after just thinking about that. Like, the ultimate freedom in this dunya comes from loving Allah. Whenever we talked about sincerity in our last Ramadan Reloaded session, you guys remember I said, like, being sincere to Allah is like, it's like the best thing ever. It's addictive. Because when you do things for the sake of Allah, like, it's like, alhamdulillah, the result is cool because I did it with sound knowledge and pure intention for Allah's sake. My reward is with Allah. I don't care if you give me thanks or anything else. On top of, like, the only way you can ever truly have ikhlas for Allah is if you love Him. There's no way for you to be sincere if you don't love Allah. It's impossible. You can't reach that state. Now, I've quoted this before, but in Nicomachean Ethics by Aristotle, in his subsection on a concept that he deemed eudaimonia, not pneumonia, eudaimonia is what he described as happiness with no reason, meaning that a person is happy, and this is not ilm kalam, don't say that I'm, one of these kalami guys, because I'm not, but, inshallah, you find some benefit in it. Eudaimonia, he described as literally being happy for no reason, meaning when a person has attained a state of eudaimonia, nothing can be taken from them that will take their happiness, nothing can be given to them that will make them more happy. And this is something that Aristotle thought of and wrote in his book Nicomachean Ethics. And the penultimate sort of human ethics and human morality and the keys to success in this life and the next, I told you what it is. Love Allah. Just love Allah. What's the verse in Surah Al Imran chapter 3 verse, what is it? I think verse 31. Surah Al Imran chapter 3 verse 31. Look, you want Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to love you? Just follow the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Allah will forgive all of your sins and Allah will love you. If you have the love of Allah, then you have unreasonable happiness. Nothing in this dunya can be taken from you that will take your happiness. Nothing can be added to you materially or financially or success-wise. Nothing can be taken from you that will ever, or given to you that will increase your happiness, because love of Allah is the ultimate aim of all stations. It's the summit of all states. And it's the key to catharsis. Many of us, when we talk about the modernist flu, a part of the modernist flu is just extreme irritability. We get irritated over silly, petty things because we spend too much time with a phone in our hands and in front of our face. We spend too much time being entertained, and because of that unending entertainment, we become depressed more easily. Because happiness is right literally at our thumb tips. I can Amazon this, I can tweet that, I can follow, like, subscribe to these things. We become sad so quickly. But whenever you have love for Allah in your life, you have access literally to the ultimate means of catharsis. All of those negative feelings and all of those evil things that you carry with you throughout your day, throughout your life, in your mind, that negativity, the pessimism, the sadness, the darkness that comes in times of difficulty, with love for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is the ultimate means of catharsis, of purging all of those negative things from your life. And the beautiful thing about the love of Allah is when you make a mistake, because there is no blameless person, there is no perfect human being. Whenever you finally make a mistake, you can put a period at the end of the worst sentences in your life. You can end that sentence and you can turn the page and you can move forward, because the love of Allah is always unending. While whenever you try to seek catharsis through talking to my friends, and I'm just gonna vlog this and blog that and type this and look at this and indulge in these things to make me feel better. Let me just listen to this song. Let me just watch this thing. I'm gonna just do this so I feel good. That is not catharsis. It loads up the negative glands in your heart, in your soul, in your mind that needs to be purged for catharsis in the first place to take place. Whenever you have love for Allah there, you put a period at the end of that sentence, you turn the page, because when it comes to that notebook, it's unending, because Allah's love for you never ends. And last but not least, many of us, we have questions. This is why you should love Allah. We have questions of, oh, my iman is so low, and I used to love Quran, and now I don't anymore, and I used to be like this, and now I'm not, and I used to practice Islam like this, but now I don't, and now that I'm in college, I can't find my deen anymore because all of my friends are like this, and now that I'm working, I don't have any time anymore because life is like this, And when, as long as I live with my parents, then it's like this, and then my siblings make me feel this way, and this girlfriend, this boyfriend. The cure to that deficit in Iman is love for Allah. Because when you tap into love for Allah, it's an unending fuel for Iman. That cure to the laziness that you find whenever you are busy with school, when you're busy with work, when you're inundated in drama and stress and pessimism and sadness, the cure to actually getting up and doing the things that will actually fix the heart, praying, making dhikr, fasting till the end of the day, reading some Quran, listening to a lecture, learning about your deen, the thing that gives you the fuel to do the things that actually increase your Iman, because as you do ibadah, acts of worship, hasanat, sends your Iman up. Sayyi'at, evil deeds, sends your Iman down. The cure to get up and not be lazy, the cure to giving life to your dead, dried, blackened heart is to love Allah. And in today's age, we have bumper sticker Iman. I take a little bumper sticker, put it on my car that says I love Allah. And that's my symbol of love for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You know, maybe I go to this class once a week. That's my symbol for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Let me show my love for Allah by doing something everyone can see. Ooh, cool, I retweeted this poster. I shared this Islamic TikTok. This is my deen. I love Allah. Look at what I put on my social media. See, I love Islam. That bumper sticker Iman is the reason why hearts die. Before, when everyone's religion was literally hidden until the people closest to them shared it, no one knew about the religiosity of a person except the ones who were close to them. And like we have Ibn Mubarak, people used to become masters of literally hiding their deeds. A part of the deficit in Iman is when you become addicted to showing everyone everything that you're doing. I will tell you something personal about myself. Maybe you can benefit from it. But we all know that seeking knowledge is worship. And whenever I was memorizing Quran, whenever I was learning qira'at, whenever I was studying fiqh, whenever I was open to the books of Aqidah, as I was learning Arabic, I used to like literally become frustrated in myself, because it's like I'm learning all this stuff and no one knows. And that would be like a disease that would plague my heart. Like no one sees it. People think I'm still this guy that only knows this much. People think, but then subhanAllah, it just became crystal clear through something that our Sheikh had shared with us. It doesn't matter what anyone knows. As long as Allah knows, it's sufficient. You don't need a bumper sticker to show your knowledge. You don't need a bumper sticker to show your religiosity. You don't need a bumper sticker to show your worship, to show your dedication. Just leave it for Allah, and Allah will literally show the people what needs to be seen, and Allah, from His love for you, will hide the rest so that it's just between you and Him. Just like a friend that you have secrets with, that you have inside jokes with, that you only share certain things with, you keep it between you two, and that's what makes it precious. The same thing when it comes to your knowledge that you're seeking. The same thing that comes with the religion that you're practicing. The same thing that comes with the charity that you give, and all of those things. Let Allah keep it a secret just between you and Him, and use that love that Allah had of masking the deeds that you do solely for His sake. Let that be fueled by the love for Him, to encourage you to be active when otherwise you would be lazy, to encourage your heart to be soft when otherwise it would be hard, give life to it when otherwise it would be dead. Now, what then are the asbab? What are the means? What are the ways to actually attaining Allah's love? It's actually pretty simple. The verbiage of it, the semantics of it, the way that it's described is simple. But the way to getting to it can sometimes be complicated. But the only thing that complicates it is us. So I want you to keep that in mind. The first way to love Allah, to truly love Allah, is to understand Islam fully. Now, does that mean become a sheikh? Does that mean become a sheikha, ustad, ustada? Does that mean that you need to become a full-time talib al-ilm? Let me just drop off the face of the planet. That is not what it takes to understand Islam. Because fahm is one thing and ilm is another. Understanding is one thing and knowledge is another. And sometimes you will find a person with very little knowledge, but they have a great amount of understanding. And sometimes you find the people of knowledge, like literally the person you call sheikh or imam or ustada or sheikha, they have a ton of knowledge, but they don't necessarily have a lot of understanding. And sometimes the differential equation that exists between knowledge and understanding and knowledge, sometimes that is the difference between a person giving an impactful talk or class and a person giving what's it called? Someone just giving a talk that's full of knowledge, like literally actionable information that impacts your life versus a bunch of things that I learned that I didn't know before. So how do you understand Islam fully? It's very simple. You can only understand what you are immersed in. The more that you become, like, for example, you understand the nuance of your job because you're in it. You understand the nuance of your class because you're in it. The more you immerse yourself in something, the greater your understanding is of it. If you are, part-time Muslim, sometimes as long as this lecture is going, then Bismillah, Allahu Akbar. But the minute this lecture is off, I'm off it. When I'm on social media, yeah. But in real life, when you see me at the masjid, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. At-taqwa hahuna, you put the taqwa is not in your chest, put it in your neck. Assalamu alaikum. The only way to understand Islam is to fully immerse yourself in it. To literally drown in the beauty of this deen, drown in the beauty of this religion. It's so amazing. Sometimes people, they look with this, grass is greener on the other side when it comes to kufr. Disbelief in Allah, when it comes to dhulm, oppressing yourself by doing sinful things, things that Allah doesn't, to indulge in your desires. Oh, well, non-Muslims get to dress like this and I can't. They get to show their hair and I can't. They get to curse and I'm not allowed to. Look, take all of that and don't become consumed with immersing yourself in shahawat. Immersing yourself in desires is not a means to happiness. But when you immerse yourself and literally swim in the waters of the deen day in and day out, you wake up and you taste it. The last thing you go to sleep, before you go to sleep, is it's on your mind. When you begin to really immerse yourself in it, you understand it, even if you don't know everything there is to know about it. And that understanding increases your love for Allah. When we say knowing Allah completely, we don't mean knowing everything there is to know about Allah, because no human being can do that. And for those of you who come to our class on the 99 names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you know that there are names of Allah that we simply don't know and can't know. It's just par for the course. But when we say knowing Allah completely, we mean understanding the concepts of what exists between Tawheed al-Rububiyyah, Tawheed al-Uluhiyyah, Tawheed al-Ubudiyyah, Tawheed al-Asma wa Sifat. Now, to build the 99 class, names of Allah classes still continue. We're going to send you a link, inshallah. When we say knowing Allah completely, know who Allah is and what the relationship between you and Allah is. Like, what does that mean? When you really begin to reflect on it and know it completely, like Allah is my Lord and I am his slave. If you were to just know that per the ayah in Surah Al-Ma'idah, chapter 5, verse number 7, the pact between us and Allah is sami'na wa ata'na, that you hear and you obey. If you were to just understand this concept, and you would know everything there is to know when it comes to Allah as your Lord and you as a Muslim. But sometimes we want to know about all the fiqh matters, and why does Allah say this about women, and why did Allah say this in the Quran, and why did the Prophet marry Aisha, and when my friend wants to become Muslim but they have these questions, you want to know everything but Allah. You want to know everything about this fiqh matter, you want to know everything about these masail, these controversial matters in the deen and the ikhtilaf. There's a difference of opinion. You want to talk about all this stuff, but you hardly know Allah. And you hardly know what it means between you and Allah to be a Muslim. Dangerous, dangerous stuff. How can you love Allah when you love learning about everything but Allah? When the things you learn about, the only reason why you're able to learn it is because Allah gave human beings the faculty of knowing in the first place. Loving the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam uncompromisingly is the key to loving Allah. We all are familiar with the narration where Umar said, I love you, Ya Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, I love you more than everyone but myself. Then you don't have true faith until you love me more than you love yourself. Now I love you more than I even love my own self. How can you have true faith? True faith is a byproduct of true love for Allah, not cultural Islam, not modern Islam, not conservative Islam, not fundamental Islam, not any other brand of Islam except Islam. It's only Islam, Islam. It's not anything else before Islam. It's just Islam, Islam. That's it. And the only way you can truly have faith in Islam, Islam, is if you love Allah. And all of us have to learn ways to love Allah in order to truly believe in Islam, Islam, have true faith. And the only way you can have that true faith is if you love the Prophet ﷺ, uncompromisingly, meaning even more than your own self. So no, you may not understand why this hadith says that. No, you may not understand why this ayah says that. No, you may not understand why this situation happened like that. But your love for the Prophet ﷺ has to be uncompromisingly existing, unendingly, period. When it comes to our love for the Prophet ﷺ, it cannot be ishq and it cannot be hub. It has to be what? It has to be unconditional love. Regardless of if I get it, regardless of if I know it, it has to be there. Oh my God. And remember Surat al-Ladina an'amta alayhim, meaning remember the people who Allah had given his favor to. from Surah Al-Fatiha. Get to know those people, the Sahaba, the Tabi'een, the Tabi'een. I believe our sister had asked the question earlier. Will Allah love us if we cannot love Allah the same way that the Prophet, that the companions loved them? No, the fact that you love Allah and the fact that you do what they do, as Allah had mentioned in Surah Al-Fatiha, you're asking Allah to guide you to the path of who? The path of those who have earned Allah's favor. The only way that you can do that is if you know that they loved Allah and you follow them and how they did it. If you try to forge your own path, then you have no guarantee of being upon the path of those who earned Allah's favor. And Allah had made it clear the Sahaba had done it. So by you loving them and striving to love Allah like they did, doesn't mean you have to be like them. It means that you do it like they did. You know how they did it and you strive to do it that way. This, inshallah, is probably one of the most lacking and the easiest ways to gain the love of Allah Jalla Jalla. Now, what are the signs of Allah's love for us? That's al-Mawsili. Where is he from? There's a Google challenge. He mentioned the true lover, meaning the true lover of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and not in this, march my language, not in this generic, disgusting, modernized version of a lover. We're talking about someone who truly loves Allah Jalla Jalla, like you really love Allah. The true lover of Allah finds no other pleasure in life and does not neglect remembering Allah for even an instant. Now, what's the practical way that looks? You can make dua literally all the time. You have a direct line to talk to Allah. If you love Allah, then make dua to Allah. You have all these situations happening in your life. You have all these fears, these anxieties, all this pessimism. Make dua to Allah. Ask Allah. That doesn't mean be a robot like, oh Allah, can you please? Like, that's not what that looks like. Ya Allah, help me. It's dua in the moment. Man, that's crazy what I just seen on the news. Man, Allah keep us safe. Ameen. This is Ameen. This is Ameen. Dua. Make dua. You love Allah, then make the dua. Dhikr is not like it's not like Jackie Chan Adventures where the old man walking around with the pufferfish. You move, it's like just chanting and moving. You got some dhikr beats in your hand and you just saying stuff and doing. I know that cracked someone up on the other side of this. Man, love bless you. It's not just about rolling around. I knew it was you. It's not just about rolling around with some dhikr being like, no, that's not what dhikr looks like. Subhanallah. Alhamdulillah. How are you doing? Alhamdulillah. You just did dhikr. Well, the minute you said that, as opposed to just saying it as an auto response, say it because you're remembering Allah. La ilaha illallah. The Prophet ﷺ said, hadith in Tirmidhi, that iman gets worn out like a cloth, so renew your iman. How do you renew your iman? Say la ilaha illallah. That doesn't mean get in a circle, start chanting, bobbing and weaving and spinning and trying to float to the clouds like some of our bros do. It's not about floating on the clouds. It's just about remembering Allah Jalla Jalal. And da'wah, giving da'wah is like the fact that you want to talk to someone about Islam is a sign that you love it. And it doesn't mean the person who doesn't give da'wah is not as good as the person who does not, but really every Muslim should be giving da'wah. So dua, dhikr, da'wah, all of this stuff is very practical. It doesn't mean, hey, Sally, yeah, our project online, Islam. You don't have to be aware. Have to be worried about it. But you should always be giving da'wah. Always should be giving da'wah. You should always be making dhikr. You should always be making dua. Not only is it a sign of your love for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but it's also something that increases your love for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Calling on him constantly, remembering him constantly, and talking to people about him constantly. When you constantly call your friend to talk to them, it's because you love them. When you constantly remember and think about the things that you enjoy, it's because you love it. Whenever you're constantly telling, oh, you should join this cool thing, we're doing this thing, it's because you love those projects, you love those events, you love the stuff that you're calling people to. Call on Allah. Remember Allah and call people to him and talk to people about him. All right? And remember the master of secrecy, Ibn Mubarak. This is what he said. Ibn Mubarak, he said, you disobey Allah, yet you claim to love him. Wallahi, this is shameful behavior by any standard. You would have obeyed him had your love been true, because the lover is always obedient to the beloved. Now, you got people who love someone on social media. If someone's like, hey, buy my new product. Okay, let me just buy this thing. Buy the thing. If you will obey a person in a moment when it comes to buying this new thing, kids see the toy on TV, I need the toy. We see these things in the dunya, we love it, we react to it. It's because you become subservient to that which you love. Now, Ibn Mubarak here is not saying be perfect. He's not saying you disobey Allah. Whenever you disobey Allah, you don't love him. That's not what that means. What he's saying is, when you love Allah and you disobey him, just like when you love someone, you hasten to apologize when you offend them, you would hasten to repent to Allah, you would hasten to ask his forgiveness. And you would have obeyed him, meaning sometimes like, oh, sleep a little bit more. You're sleeping a little bit more because you love to sleep a little bit more than you love Allah to get up in the first place. Oh, let me just finish this show. You're delaying Salat al-Dhuhr, you're delaying Salat al-Asr, because whatever that thing is you delayed it for. Think about it, 5 to 10 minutes of prayer. 5 to 10 minutes of prayer. Some of you knock it out in 4 minutes flat. Some of you take like 15 minutes to pray silent prayer. May Allah bless all of you and me. But that thing that you delay the prayer for, you love it a little bit more than 5 minutes with Allah. Give the 5 minutes. We're not saying skip exams. We're not saying do anything crazy. But when you can make the time for Allah, you do it, because you do that for the things that you love. Whenever you love a TV show, you make time to binge watch it. Whenever you love, something that you want to buy, you save the money so that you can buy it. What are you doing? What are you saving for Allah? The more you try to do those things, remember, we're not saying perfection in practice, because there is no perfect Muslim. Islam is a perfect religion revealed by a perfect God, but practiced by imperfect people. So there is no perfect example of Islam outside of the Anbiya and the people who follow them in goodness. But even then, those who follow them in goodness are flawed, because every human being is not perfect. Rather, we're not saying be perfect. That's not a sign of your love for Allah as being perfect. Rather, it's a sign that you're persistent. Think about how hard you may pursue marriage. Think about how hard you may pursue success. Think about how hard you may pursue money. Persistence in your pursuit is a testament to your love for it. So be persistent in your pursuit for the love of Allah. We're going to close at this point. Please forgive me for going over time. Step number 1, remove these delusions that come from thinking about other people. People will never love you like Allah does. I love all of you for the sake of Allah. I love Allah more than all of you. And that's healthy. That's good. You should love Allah more than you love anything. Now, again, loving Allah more than anything does not mean becoming rude or being a jerk or being standoffish or, walking around with your nose like 10 feet in the air. That's not what that means. Rather, don't think about people so much that you forget about Allah. Don't think about pleasing people so much that you forget about pleasing Allah. And you should never, ever love someone so much that it makes you forget about Allah, ever. If you come under any of those 3 categories, then that is unhealthy. It's spiritually unhealthy. And know that banking on love for Allah is an investment that will always pay dividends. Banking on your love for the people is like taking your money, putting it out in the trash, and waiting for the garbage man to come pick it up on Thursday or Friday, whatever time they come to pick it up. You're literally investing in something because people's feelings, they change, but Allah will forever love you. Know what that love really means for this life. Know what love really means for this life and the next. Know what loving Allah, know what that actually means for this life. Loving Allah is cathartic. Loving Allah is healthy. Loving Allah makes you feel way better than loving a person. People will let you down. You may love someone with all your heart, and your heart will be broken. As our Sheikh once said, people keep falling in love, and they just keep falling. Love Allah, and never ever fail to love Allah. Now, know what that means in this life. It's freedom. Let's go back to our favorite quote. We're gonna get this thing posted on a wall, man. This right here, subhanallah. Let's highlight that in that line. Ooh, that's a bright green right there. I got my night shade on, and that thing's still bright. The ultimate aim of all stations, the summit of all states. That's what you want for this dunya. You don't want some fake love or something else. Love for Allah in this dunya it's the ultimate arrival. It's the ultimate source of happiness. But even more in the hereafter, think about how much time you like to spend with your friends. Think about how much time you like to spend online. Do you love Allah enough to spend all of eternity with them? Because that's a real sign of your love for Allah Jalla Jalal. If you really, really love your friend, you might sneak out of quarantine and break social distance and just hang out with them. You're gonna hold the phone to your ear without your AirPods or your Bluetooth wireless headset. You're gonna do it till your arm starts to cramp in the middle. You're gonna switch hands because you love to talk to them. You're gonna be typing and texting on your Discord chats and your WhatsApp chats and your Snapchat chats and all the TikTok chats. You'll be chatting it up. Now, would you want to be with them forever in Jannah? Okay, well, think about the creator of Jannah. Do you want to be with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forever in his eternal pleasure in Jannah? Then act like it. If you know it, then show it. If you know that love for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is a thing, and you know that it's important, then show it. Don't be that person, I love Allah. You can't tell me what love for Allah is. I keep it to myself. When you love this TV show, you won't stop talking about it. When you love this thing, you won't shut up about it. You just keep talking about it. If you can do that for things in the dunya, then show your love for Allah. It doesn't mean show it to the people so they see it, but when you feel it, you show it. This is why the Prophet ﷺ informed us that whenever you love someone for the sake of Allah, you should tell them, I love you for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When you feel it, you say it. And the last thing that we'll mention, and next week we're going to talk about tahajjud. Next week, tahajjud. And this will probably be, from my perspective, it'll probably be the most important talk I've ever given as a Muslim, and I do not say that lightly. It's probably the most important thing that I've ever talked about as a Muslim. I hope Allah gives me life to give you that talk. I mean, because tahajjud is the game changer. It is the game changer. We're going to talk about it though, inshallah. But first things first, put together a game plan like you do for other things you love. When you got to study for an exam, when you're trying to graduate, you're trying to get in medical school, you're trying to shake and move, and I'm trying to get my bachelor's, my master's, I'm trying to make this money, I'm trying to do this, that, and the third, I'm trying to get married, I'm trying to get married. You know, whenever you have these fields, you put together a game plan for it. So put together a game plan for actualizing your love for Allah. Put together a game plan. Like, all right, well today, you know what? I'm gonna put my phone on airplane mode, and I'm gonna just play Quran for 15 minutes. Bismillah. Let me shut out all these other things. I'm gonna just look. You think it's a small thing? Put my phone on airplane mode for 15 minutes. If you know it, then show it. Just a little bit of love for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What's another example of something you could do? I don't want to take too much more time. So I hope that this is well received. If you gotta go, Barakakumullahu Rabbul Alameen. May Allah bless each and every single one of you. Would you recommend trying to read more Quran or try to read tafsir, understand what you are reading during Ramadan? I recommend doing a blend of both. If you can do both, then do both. Now, in today's age, we make this criteria. It's an illusionary criteria that we need to complete the entire Quran in Ramadan. The ulama, the fuqaha in particular, there is opinions that you need to complete reading the Quran at least once a year to complete the Quran's right over you. Meaning at least once in a year you need to completely go through the Quran. And because the recitation of the Imam counts for the person behind them, this is normally when they go to Tarawih in order just to knock it out. All right, I did my one time this year. But we're not doing it just to get it done. We're doing it for love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, like Musa alayhi salam will race into his love. So I will tell you, the most enjoyable Ramadan I ever had as a Muslim was I was praying behind an Imam who did not make it a priority to complete the Quran. It's the best Ramadan I've ever had, by far. He just, at the beginning of Ramadan, he said, look, if you want to complete the Quran, do what the Salaf did. Do it by yourself. Do it by yourself. If you really want to complete the Quran, just do it on your own. Because that's what Imam al-Shafi'i, he would do it by himself. All of the Sahaba, most of them, when they would complete the Quran, they weren't waiting for Tarawih to do it. They would do it on their own. They would do it with the Mus'haf on their own. So he said, if you want to complete it, go ahead, do it yourself. It's fine. But here, what we're going to focus on in Tarawih is we want to connect with the Quran. So he's like, well, some nights we may read like 3 pages. Some nights we may read a juz. Some nights we may do 5. We might do 10. But whatever we go over, we're going to take our time with it. And I remember one night he read like maybe 5 pages, but it took 40 minutes. I was in there, like, I was swooning, man. My heart was, he kept repeating the verses and switching it up. He dropped ads on us. I was like, man, this is the best Ramadan ever. I've never had my heart soften more than that Ramadan. So, you know, whenever you stand up for Tarawih, say you're not Hafid of Quran. Even this Tarawih, even this Ramadan, the Hufad are like, finally I get a break, yeah! They're stoked. And when they pray Tarawih at home, if they do decide to do it themselves, they probably gonna hold the Mus'haf. They're like, this feels good. And there's nothing wrong with holding the Mus'haf. But take the time to actually understand it. What I would advise you to do, read the English translation in the morning, or read the English translation before then, or pick some sections of Quran, read some tafsir on it. I prefer to read. I don't watch like lectures on YouTube or anything like that. My personal preference is to read or to sit with the Shuyukh and go to their halaqaat and stuff. But you know, find whatever your cup of tea is and sip it, and then go and pray with that. Wallahu ta'ala. Would you say the first steps to getting out of a loop of sadness, negativity is praying all 5 prayers on time? Absolutely, I would say that. Because Allah is giving you an invitation every single day to hasten to His pleasure. You hasten to Allah's pleasure, then Allah will never leave a person who does that displeased. What is your advice for balancing studying Islam while studying at college? My advice, my advice on balancing studying Islam while going to college is, I'm gonna tell y'all what I did. So before I came to Islam, right, I finished going to school, but then after I became a Muslim, I asked my mother. It didn't last long, but I asked my mother, "Can I live with you until I get married?" Because you know I was a new Muslim. I was like, I can't live by myself, so let me move back in with my mom. She was like, "Yeah," but I told you before, and I'll tell you again. You can only live with me if you're in school. So I was like, okay. So I went to Wake Tech, and I did like some certifications while I was there. And alhamdulillah, I also did an associate's while I was there. I just pretty much had a good time. Used it to give a lot of dawah, to come at some teachers. Some of you are aware of that. So while I was there, I still had grades and stuff, and because I was a Muslim, like I wanted to be on the dean's list. I wanted to have like a good GPA and all of that. So what I would do is I would study Islam after Fajr, and I would go to school essentially from like 7:30 to like sometimes 1, depending on the day of the week. Because I did the 2-year program in a year, so I was like putting in a lot of hours each semester. But after every single prayer, I would study. After every single prayer, I would study something about Islam. Some of you may remember I used to pull up to IAR with a bag full of Islamic books. But I also, believe it or not, I graduated from Wake Tech in the mihrab of that masjid because I would do all my schoolwork there. And I would, like after every prayer, I would study something. So I found by taking a piece, by the end of the semester, I learned so much about Islam, like because I was studying it along with studying school. So sometimes people think like, I need to go through this whole fiqh book. I need to learn this entire madhab. I need to learn all the stuff about aqidah, piece by piece by piece by piece. Are there any books of tafsir in English that you would recommend? The best tafsir that I ever studied in my entire life with the sheikh in North Carolina was, well, actually 2 shuyukh in North Carolina. One wasn't from North Carolina, but one of them was there. Was Adwa al-Bayan. Oh my God, that book of tafsir, but it's not in English. It's by Imam al-Shankiti. Look up a lecture online to see if there's someone teaching that book. Because that book of tafsir, it made me love the Quran so much. It's just so beautiful. Sometimes people, they wonder, how do you connect all these verses and stuff? It's because of Adwa al-Bayan. It's just amazing. But as far as like English translations of tafsir go, I would probably recommend Tafsir as-Sa'di. That's like a shorter one. It's pretty good. Some of you can download like an app on your Quran, or a Quran app on your phone that has what's it called, Tafsir Jalalain in English. So as opposed to reading an English translation of Quran, you can read for the translation Tafsir al-Jalalain. And Tafsir al-Jalalain, it's only two volumes. It's only 2 volumes compared to like Ibn Kathir, which the abridged version is like 10 volumes, or a Shankiti is like 8 or 9, or like some other. But Jalalain is like relatively short. You can find excerpts of like Tafsir al-Tabari, but you know even if you read like the Arabic version of Tafsir al-Tabari, sometimes the sheikh will go like 9 pages, just explaining like one ayah. So and chain after chain after chain. So that would be some that I would recommend. Sheikh Hassan? That's Sheikh Hassan? I don't know what that is. Oh, mashallah. Learn Islam, love Islam, live Islam. Mashallah. Wait, are you still doing the 99 names? Yes, I am, Grapes. I'm still doing the 99 names. You can do WGU. That's what one brother suggested. Can you say the name of the book of Tafsir one more time? Sure. The English one is Tafsir as-Sa'di. I can send you the PDFs for this if any of you want it. What's the other one? Tafsir Ibn Kathir, that's a go-to. Tafsir Jalalain, Jalalayn, Jalalain. How many L's are in Jalalain? We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to reward each and every single one of you. We ask Allah to make us from those whom He loves, We ask Allah Jalla Jalal to increase us in khair in all of its forms. Allahumma ameen. بوريتم وجزيتم وبقيتم وكفيتم وعن الشيطان وحيتم. والسلام عليكم ورحمته وبركاته.